December 2025, a record-breaking announcement. The Kansas City Chiefs, the most successful franchise in recent memory, are moving home, thanks to the largest public subsidy in sports history. Politicians say taxpayers won't pay one extra penny.
The state's portion of this project is paid for with revenue generated from the project, not with new taxes.
But this math, however, never seems to quite add up, unless you understand the sneaky and unusual design of stadium subsidies. A stadium subsidy is when governments use taxpayer money to build sports venues. Subsidies come in three forms: direct payments, the government writes a check to build a stadium; tax breaks, teams avoid property or sales taxes that other businesses would pay; and bonds, the government borrowing money and locking future tax revenue into paying it back. This paper is the most comprehensive analysis ever published on this topic. Between 1970 and 2020, government spent $33 billion on stadiums. The median public contribution, 73%. While that percentage is declining, total costs are exploding. Average stadium tenure has also fallen by 25% since 1960, meaning more public money more frequently. Subsidies aren't exclusive to the NFL. Of 124 North American franchises, only 17 play in venues built without public money. Given these facts, then, stadiums must surely deliver massive economic returns. Ask the world's leading economists. The answer is unanimous. Subsidies are built on a lie. And let's break down the reasons why. Imagine opening day at a new stadium. On average, you'll spend $140 at an NFL game. That money, though, isn't net new growth. That's money you're not spending at a restaurant or a bar or at the cinema. Economists call this the substitution effect. Local money only moves, it doesn't multiply. What then about away fans? Tourism? Well, hotels do see bumps on game days, but even if half the crowd travels from out of state, which they don't, 8 regular season games doesn't justify the billions in public spending. It's a similar story on job creation. Construction provides temporary, well-paying work, of course, but when the stadium opens, most opportunities are low-wage, part-time, and seasonal. Wrapped in all of this is opportunity cost. Every stadium dollar is competing against other public needs. Infrastructure that benefits the entire economy, not just 8 Sundays a year. The economic case collapses under scrutiny. So when politicians promise that stadiums will deliver growth,
the largest economic win in Kansas history,
or stadiums will drive tourism,
we are making Kansas a tourist destination for the region, for the nation, and for the world.
they're repeating claims disproven for 30 years. If the research is this clear, why do cities keep funding them? Because in theory, it should be a bipartisan issue. Conservatives hate the spending, progressives hate the beneficiaries. The answer comes down to two forces. Franchises are first and foremost limited. The NFL only has 32 teams, which means cities must compete. Take the Chiefs. Did they need a new stadium? Arrowhead seats 76,000. It's iconic, the loudest stadium in America. Why not just renovate? That's exactly what they tried. In April 2024, stadium renovation funding was put to a public vote, and
Jackson County, Missouri voters rejecting that stadium sales tax extension for both the Chiefs and the Royals.
8 months later, Kansas politicians approved the $1.8 billion without asking voters at all. The Hunt family, America's 13th richest, simply looked across the state line. Billions of dollars in the blink of an eye. And it's perhaps the most extreme example of an uncomfortable truth. Teams have cities by the balls. Every deal sets a new precedent. First Buffalo, then Tennessee, now the Chiefs, each with the promise of a Super Bowl waiting in the wings. Stadiums beget stadiums across the country. But there's another force at play here. Put yourself in the governor's shoes. You receive a call from your local franchise. The stadium's outdated, other cities are calling. We don't want to leave. However, if the team leaves on your watch, that's your reputation, the governor who lost the city's crown jewel. But if you save them, it's a ribbon cutting ceremony, a legacy project, your name forever on a plaque, and of course a luxury suite waiting for you on opening weekend. Whether by pressure, whether by ego, politicians always sign up. The real problem though, these deals outlive those politicians and in many cases leave states hostage for decades, which raises the question Kansas refuses to answer. How exactly is the government paying for this? Well, Kansas is funding this using star bonds. $3.1 billion all told, including payments, bondholder profits, and fees. Officials say it'll be paid back from sales and liquor tax revenue. For the next 30 years, any tax revenue above the current baseline pays off those stadium bonds. Look at the map though. Here's the taxable boundary of those star bonds. 293 square miles. The governor says this means no new taxes. Technically, this is true, tax rates aren't going up. But here's the trick. Tax revenue isn't static. Populations grow, businesses open, inflation is inevitable. That growth would occur with or without the Chiefs. Only now, instead of that increased funding going towards public projects, it's locked into paying for a stadium. The math gets worse. Kansas officials estimate 3.2 million people will attend Chiefs games per year. The Chiefs can host a maximum of 15 home games per season. That means the state estimates 215,000 fans per game for a 65,000-seater stadium, which is 11,000 seats fewer than Arrowhead. To be clear, this isn't just an attack on Kansas. Just months prior, subsidies landed in the US Capitol. Direct payments, tax breaks, a land deal that meant the Commanders paid no rent on prime DC real estate for 26 years. And now it's not just America. Manchester United, a new 100,000-seater stadium, site clearance of a rail hub is coined at £1 billion of public money. None of these reports account for delays, for the overruns, for the cost increases. So if subsidies cost taxpayer billions and economists say they don't work, who exactly benefits? You guessed it. When a city builds a stadium with public money, the team's value skyrockets. The Raiders are the obvious example. They moved to Vegas, and their valuation tripled in just a few years. Stadium revenues are an owner's primary cash machine. That's why these new stadiums pack in luxury suites with 5-figure ticket prices. But here's what really hits home. Ordinary fans will still pay the extortionate prices. Credit is due to teams that take a fan-first approach. The Falcons' concessions is a great example. It goes some way in thanking the city for $700 million. It doesn't have to be this way. Teams have proven that stadiums can be privately financed. Take SoFi Stadium, $5 billion, no payments, no tax breaks, no bonds. Owners can afford to build, but why would you when governors are so eager to please? You know what makes this so difficult? We've talked purely about economics, but sports aren't built on spreadsheets. It's a walk-off touchdown, a game-winning field goal, Sunday with your children. To many, sport is a public good. It holds communities together. Teams do rarely move, but when they do, it's devastating. The franchise model works. It builds competitive leagues, it develops the next generation, it gives every team a shot at redemption. And in rare cases like Green Bay, where residents own their team, Public investment can make sense, but those opportunities are becoming all too rare. Is there actually a way forward? Well, proposals do exist. A federal limit on tax-exempt bonds would reduce the impact they would have on local communities, but nothing has yet to pass because the interest of cities, politicians, fans, and owners very rarely align. The question isn't whether stadiums have value, it's who should be paying for them. Right now, the answer is clear and the precedent is already set. So the only remaining question, which city is going to be next?